Good afternoon, everybody. This is Hunter Mozingo bringing you your daily market insight video for Thursday, October 14th, a little over 10 minutes after market close here in Jacksonville, Florida, approximately 4:12 p.m. Eastern time. And we got some good stuff in today's video. We got a possible change in character for the indices, plus the top stocks and setups for you to pay attention to. Additionally, we've got some changes to the trend gauge, a change to market state. So with that being said, let's get right into it. And we're going to talk about what just happened first, and that is strong follow through for all indices, all sectors green. So some really nice breadth across the market, nice strength across all sectors, something we haven't been able to say a lot in 2021. So G5 up 1.64%, S&P up 1.71%, Q's up 1.84%, Dow up a little over 1.5%, mid caps up 1.71%, and Russell up a little less than 0.5%. Market state has been changed to uptrend as we got some nice follow through, as I mentioned, on the indices back above the 21 on the Qs and the S&P, the IWM, the Russell mid caps also starting to look much better, starting to move out of a consolidation to the upside, and the Dow also back above the 21, which leads me to the trend gauge. Market leaders has been moved from neutral to up. That is because they have continued to act well, and also we've seen really great follow through on many of the market leaders, as well as some significant relative strength in a lot of leading stocks over the last 3 to 4 days. Short term has been moved from down to neutral as well. You can see this little green arrow is pointing towards bullish. That's because we're looking for consecutive closes on the Qs, the S&P, and the Dow above the 21 to change that short term trend right here to bullish. Similarly, we're looking for the same thing on the midterm, the 50-day moving average. We're looking for consecutive closes above the 50 on the S&P and the Qs to move this to bullish as well. So long term remains the same, but two big changes on the trend gauge today. Short term from down to neutral, market leaders from neutral to up. So before we get into the charts, this is the team at Revere. This is me. If you have any questions about anything I say, email me. I'm happy to answer and happy to respond. If you're interested in what we do, what our strategy is, please send any of us an email, Dan, Tim, Merrill, Alex, or Don at revereasset.com. So with no further ado, let's get into the good stuff here. And we're going to look at the Qs. And you can see this strong follow through day here. Day one of an attempted rally. Right here, we don't undercut these lows. And now we have gapped up above the 21 EMA. And you might say, well, Hunter, we also did something similar over here. Big difference is we finished at the top of the range on consecutive days. Very, very nice strength. We finished above where we opened. That's very important, which is the antithesis or the opposite of what happened here. So, excuse me. The other key takeaway is we were above last week's high. So this is the high from 10.7. We are above that high, and we also see the 21 act as support today. So some big changes in character, some stuff we haven't seen. This is the first close above the 21 EMA for the Qs pretty much since 9/17, so nearly a month. Now the Qs have that first close above the 21, looking for continuation in that regard. The S&P, I believe this is only the second close above the 21 in roughly a month or so, but right up into the 50-day, the more or less right on it into the close on the S&P here, and same story above last week's highs from 10.7. The high was 441.68. We got above that today, so some nice action. It's the same thing we talked about on the Qs. We tried to do something similar here, but we got rejected at the 50 and finished at the bottom of the range. The difference here is we started here and we saw this act as support, and we finished at the top of the range. And when I say this, I mean the 21 right there, slightly below on S&P. IWM, like I said, has actually held up pretty well. You see all of these moving averages converge here, and then a nice move up and out of this consolidation. You can kind of see this here, this wedge, this triangle, whatever you want to call it. Nice move from small caps. You'd like to see the big volume, but nonetheless, price is what's important. And so nice action from small caps. Mid caps are going to look very similar. As you can see, a consolidation and a nice move out, almost above 500 here on mid caps. We haven't done that, but 3 times in its existence. We are above 500, excuse me. So nice move for mid caps. And then the Dow actually looks pretty similar to the S&P in the fact that it is right at the 50. Dow actually finishing slightly above the 50. So you can see a little bit of some changing character, getting through some areas of resistance, getting above previous highs, something we haven't really been able to do very often over the course of the last month. So looking for continuation, like I said, on all of these indices, primarily the Qs and the S&P, but on all of these, we want to see good follow through. Secondly, before I get to interest rates and the dollar, I do want to quickly highlight the G5 index for our viewers. And you can see all of these getting back above the 21 today. This is ARKK. We're going to go to QQQJ, gapping up. QQQJ actually back above the 50 there. PDP back above the 21. IWO back above the 21 and the 50. And then lastly, FFTY. Same thing, back above the 21 and the 50 here. So some strong moves from all the members of the G5. And quickly, I'm going to go over TLT just to show a little bit of what's been going on here. You can see TLT has made a nice move up, meaning that yields have come down a little bit. But banks really have not been hit hard amidst this move. They've actually continued to act well. And then you've got the dollar also pulling back just a small bit. It doesn't move very volatile by any means, but the dollar pulling back a little bit. This is certainly, both with interest rates and the dollar, been a little bit of a boost to the equity market, particularly the growth area. So let's get into some of those top stocks. And this is one that we added pretty heavily to today. It was one we already owned coming into today. And this is AMBA with a beautiful consolidation and a massive move out with volume here, roughly 120% above average volume, up about 10% on the day. Very, very strong in the semiconductor space. And we saw strength in some other members that we're going to look at here in just a moment as well. Upstart, another name that was up roughly 10% today, making an incredible move to all-time highs. You can't really say more or anything about this one other than it's a true market leader, a consolidation on the 21 and right back off to the races. So you can't ignore these names that I'm covering here at the beginning. AMBA, Upstart. A new one that I haven't mentioned as much recently, but has gotten some life, is Crowdstrike. Very, very strong move. Sorry, guys. See if my Market Smith will come back up for us here. There we go. A strong move back above all the moving averages and follow through today to make a higher high. Just incredible action. 2 good days of volume here on Crowdstrike. This was the leader in cybersecurity space, maybe attempting to reclaim that crown. Datadog, one that was down today, but one that you really want to pay close attention to due to the volume yesterday. It consolidated right here around this 140, 150 area for a while, got a big move up and out yesterday. Today, not the prettiest, not the strongest, but keep your eye on it, especially if this thing comes back to the 8-day exponential moving average. That's kind of the areas I'm watching here on Datadog. Affirm, one of the true market leaders as well, right there with Upstart, right there with AMBA, making new highs today, as you can see, finishing kind of in the middle of the range. This did go red at one point, ended up finishing green. You can see the volume here. This thing is just massive. You want to keep a very, very, very close watch on Affirm. Something special going on there with that one, in my opinion. MRVL. This is what I mean when I mention some of these other semiconductor names. MRVL acting like you would expect it to after a gap, comes back, tests the 8/the 21, and has ultimately moved higher. AMD acting very well, giving you some nice follow through after yesterday's action as well. It's kind of similar to what we saw with Crowd, getting back up through those moving averages and then continuation today. And then you've got NVIDIA also acting well, getting back above all of its moving averages. So some positive action in the semiconductor space, and actually semiconductors outperformed nicely today. Stocks up 3%, back above the 21. That's a very impressive move from the semiconductor ETF. We've also seen uranium and lithium pull back a little bit. I just want to cover these briefly. Both of these spaces, and I'm on uranium now. This is uranium ETF, putting in an inside day. This had a really strong move the last 2 days, so I keep a close watch on this one. It can get very, very explosive. And when I talk about lithium, I'm mainly looking at LAC. This is a lithium miner. Similar story, big move up the last 2 days. Really anything that's commodity or energy related is getting some nice volume and some nice price action here. In phase, speaking of energy, Enphase has made a really nice move. The solar group as a whole has made a very impressive move with some volume over the last 3 or 4 days. TAN is the ETF in this space that you want to pay close attention to. You can see this is a very strong move, maybe a little bit short-term extended, but certainly a change in character to some degree with the volume we're seeing on the ETF and a lot of these individual names. Something certainly going on in this space. And then one last growth type of leader, AppLovin. I've covered this one a couple of times over the last week or so. Incredibly strong, really not giving you an opportunity, just moving up and moving out and acting like a leader should. So the last couple that I really want you to not forget about and pay attention to is oil and gas continues to act well, even on a day when, like I said, growth was slightly outperforming value, but there was very strong market breadth. Don't forget about names like LNG here or FANG. Some of these oil and gas names are still acting very well. Similarly, banks had a good day on the back of some earnings. I believe Morgan Stanley and Bank of America reported, JP Morgan reported earlier. So we got banks acting well, even with TLT up. And then additionally, this chemical agriculture group that I've been talking about continues to act like a strong sector as well. This is NTR. I've covered CF. I've covered MOS. Watch those as well. So before we end it, I've got a few here that I think are actually at some attractive risk reward levels, ones that aren't massively extended like a Upstart or an Affirm, for example, and coming up the right side of a base or have been building a base on top of their previous highs. And for one, we've got Airbnb here, who has reestablished an uptrend, sitting on the 8-day exponential moving average. This one has a good look to it, in my opinion. It's been somewhat of a reopening play, I guess you could say, but what I'm looking at here is the way this is trending in the right direction, and right now sitting right on the 8-day. So Airbnb is one. Unity, another one coming up the right side of the base, not too far from this 144.59 pivot. That's the level that I'm watching here. ZI, another name that built or stayed up kind of above this previous high. You can see it broke out, and then the broader market weakness kind of took it down, but it kind of respected the 60 area. Now it's kind of made a big move up over the last 3 days, like a lot of names have, but back above all these moving averages, and you can see them curling in the right direction, right? You got the 8 hooking up through the 21 and the 50. The 21 should be rising up off of the 50 pretty soon. That one has a decent look, in my opinion. Snow, another name that is acting well and strong, finishing at the bottom of the range today, but above this 330 high. That was a pretty important level there, that 328, 330 range. And Celsius, one that was weak today, but one that's sitting right on the 21. This one has a tendency to behave a little bit odd, relatively thin to some degree, but right on the 21 has been a pretty good buy, going back to this breakout from the 65-70 range here. So 5 names that I think are actually at a decent risk reward level, not too extended. A couple more here. SI, crypto bank, acting well, bouncing off the 8. And then MARA, this is a crypto miner company, acting well and just kind of sitting right here after a strong move yesterday, up 7.1%. So just a couple of different names in the Bitcoin space you can see, or in the cryptocurrency space, excuse me. GBTC looking very, very nice here. And then ETHE actually having a better day today, also getting back above the moving averages and whatnot. So that is going to wrap it up. I know it's a lot of information, a lot of tickers, but hopefully it is valuable to you all. So thank you for listening. I will see you on the podcast this week, and everybody enjoy your weekends.